What's good, friends, family, people of Earth? One trade today. I took it about 45 minutes ago. I entered at 12:30, which is slightly unusual. I typically get off the charts around 11:15 if I don't take a trade by then. Um, but it was actually a really solid trade, and I ended up laughing because um, I took my take profits at spots I am supposed to. However, price ended up shitting the bed completely. So you'll see when we show you. But let me go over the whole market and my thought process in the morning. So what did I have marked out on the daily? Well, there wasn't really no unfilled daily for value gaps or anything. Um, so all I had marked out was this Wednesday, July 16th low, and then this Monday, July 14th low as well. And then what ended up happening? Well, we actually took out both of those literally right on the dot, swept out this low, and then retrace back up. So those draws on liquidity were good. We'll go over that in a second. Um, Moving on to the 4 hour. Let me select the bar. Let's see. This, let's go one more. So obviously you guys know this candle was still fluctuating at market open, right? The 6 a.m. candle. But what did we have above us? We had this unfilled 4 hour fair value gap because I was extremely bearish coming into market open. So what I wanted to see was I wanted to see a retracement into that 4 hour fair value gap. Also sweeping out these London and Asian highs that we'll get into in a second, right? So this 4 hour fair value gap was unfilled. This fair value gap right here, this candle was still fluctuating. So it wasn't a valid fair value gap to enter into, right? So now since we got the daily and the 4 hour, moving down to the 1 hour, what else do we have? Well, we had Asian highs up here that I also wanted to see what market open in this general area. I wanted to see retrace, come take all that shit out, and then continue lower. But what did we end up doing? We ended up just shitting the bed, right? So again, what were our draws above us on the 1 hour? Same thing. We had this 1 hour unfilled that I also wanted to see get tapped into at market open because we had this a little accumulation zone. So I wanted to see manipulation higher into it and then keep distributing lower, right? Since I was bearish on the day. So that's really all I had marked out on the hourly. Drop down to the 15-minute, care less about the 30-minute. What do we have? Well, we have a few things, right? We had this unfilled 15-minute right above the hourly, which almost actually got hit. And then we had another unfilled 15-minute right above it, and then this 15-minute as well. But I was assuming if we came in and tapped at least this hourly and 15-minute, we would continue lower just due to how bearish we were. So that's why I didn't mark out the other one. So let me just delete all this shit because this shit's irrelevant, but you guys understand why I had that marked out. And then obviously my draw is lower, right? Let's go to, well, I already showed you guys essentially, but this was actually a weekly low and this was just previous week, sometime in the day. Fuck. Let me go back over here. All right, so staying on the 15-minute. What do we have at market open? Well, we don't have much. What did we do at market open? We absolutely shit the bed. Didn't find an entry in there. I don't think many people did because literally price opened and just didn't make a manipulation move at all. It just straight literally shit the bed, right? So as we're shitting the bed, I was waiting for a retracement into either this 5-minute for value gap or this 5-minute for value gap. What did we end up getting? None of that. We ended up taking out both of these draws on liquidity down here, right? Price ended up chopping a little bit. This candle wicks out this weekly low literally perfectly. We created an SMT. So now I was like, okay, maybe we can take a mech model to this unfilled 5-minute gap right here. So let's come down here. Let me see what this next candle did. Okay. There was a 2-minute inversion somewhere in here. Now, I didn't like this due to the fact that we didn't really have any higher time frame confluences. All we had was this essentially a weekly SMT and then a 2-minute inversion. And that wasn't enough conviction for me to enter. But as you guys see, we get the 2-minute inversion right here, right after the SMT. And then if you guys did enter off this candle, I mean, good for you, but the RR was just terrible, right? So if my take profit is the entry point to this 5-minute fair value gap, typically my stops are at swing lows, right? But if I put my stops at swing lows, that's a 90-point stop loss with a 0.43 fucking RR, absolutely dog. And if I put it under the candle that just inversed this 2-minute gap, it was still absolutely terrible, right? It was 0.8 RR or 0.79, whatever. And this is what it looked like on the 1 minute. So even though like there was this 1 minute fair value gap here, I just didn't like it, right? RR reasons, trade was just no bueno. But as you guys can see, let's take a look at it. Ended up smacking take profit just fine. So it ended up working out. But again, I didn't like it due to RR reasons and not having enough conviction. So now that that's out the way, we can get rid of these lines. Let's go back up to the 5/15 minute because I did trade end up later in the day. So what did we do when we retraced? Well, we came back up and also filled this unfilled 15-minute gap. What I wanted to see, I wanted to see retracement into there, and then I wanted to continue lower towards this, essentially the SMT low, which isn't the best take profit area because there was a bullish SMT going against where we're going. So I just stayed really patient. What ended up happening? We created a 15-minute high. We actually, no, we didn't invert that 15-minute gap yet. What did we do? We inverted this 15-minute bullish gap here. So I was like, okay, maybe if we retrace into like a 5-minute gap, but what did we get? We didn't get a 5-minute gap. So that was out the picture. And if you guys know how I trade, I literally just trade fair value gaps, inversions, which is a fair value gap essentially, and liquidity. So SMTs and liquidity sweeps. That's it. So we didn't get a fair value gap. Dude, I can never say that. Retrace. But what ended up happening? Well, we ended up coming back up. And at this point in time, it is about 11:30ish, 11:45 when this candle closed. I was like, I'm done for the day. I went into my bathroom. I took a shit. I was on my phone. I ended up going on like TikTok. And then I still had the charts open. I was sitting in front. I was kind of like monitoring it. And I was like, okay, we still have this unfilled 5-minute right here, which is this blue line, right? And we have this 15-minute liquidity. So I was like, all right, if we push into this discounted 5-minute, I'll take longs towards this area. We push into this 5-minute right here, but as you guys can see, we barely tapped into it. And again, that's not enough conviction for me, right? We barely tapped into it. But if that was enough conviction for you guys, you would have tapped into it. You would have got a 1-minute inversion right here. Entered off this candle. Hold on. Let's go enter long. Let's say you guys did end up taking this. Your stops can be at like this liquidity down here, and your take profit can be this unfilled 5-minute. So it wasn't the worst of trades, but again, I was being very patient today, and it actually ended up paying off. I got rewarded for being patient. Look, this is what it would look like if you guys took it on the lower time frame. Let me get rid of this fucking arrow. Okay, so tap into the gap. What do we get? We get a 1-minute inversion right here, and then continue higher. As you guys can see, ended up smacking take profit. This blue line, which was this 15-minute liquidity, could have ended up being your break-even point. So that trade ended up working out as well. Again, not enough conviction for me because what were my confluences in this trade? Essentially just what? A 5-minute fair value gap, and that's about it because we didn't tap into this unfilled 15-minute right here, and we inverted this 15-minute bullish gap. So what really confluences I had for us to go higher, it would have just been a 5-minute premium tap and a 1-minute inversion. And again, that's not enough. It's not enough conviction for me. Even though the trade ended up working out, I was being, again, very patient today. So now that we got a good understanding of that trade, again, I forward tested all of this today and shit ended up working out. But what did we do? We ended up tapping into this bearish 5-minute. What did we leave behind when we retraced back up right here? Well, we left this unfilled 15-minute and we left this unfilled 15-minute as well. So now all I'm looking for is maybe like an SMT. But as you guys like to know, I like higher time frame confluences first, then middle time frame confluences, and then lower time frame inversions to enter. What did we end up getting as our higher time frame confluence? Well, we ended up pushing back into this 1 hour fair value gap right here. So once I seen that, my eyes kind of like opened a little bit. I was like, okay, we have unfilled 15 minutes below us. We just tapped into this hourly bearish. We're already bearish on the day, right? I'm going to have to redo it. Yeah, this is what price ended up doing, by the way, but we'll get into that in a second. So what do we get? We get a tap into this hourly gap, which was also a sweep of this 15-minute liquidity. And we also tapped into this 5-minute. Hold on, I got to sneeze. 5-minute discounted gap if we want to go short, right? If we want to go long, that just whatever, right? We tap into this 5-minute gap along with 15-minute liquidity sweep. We have an hourly fair value gap now. All I'm waiting for is really an inversion. What do we get right here? Well, we have a 5-minute. I was like, cool. If we invert this 5-minute, I'll enter. Stops at the swing highs. Take profit at one of these unfilled gaps right here, depending on RR reasons, what it could have been. But what did we end up doing on the 5-minute? Well, we just kept wicking into this gap. When we were wicking into this gap, we weren't really respecting it, but we weren't disrespecting it either. But what were we doing on the lower time frame? We're now accumulating. So when I see accumulation zones, my eyes kind of light up. And especially if we manipulate one way or another, if it's in our bias, I can use that as a confluence as well. So, and we're going to learn about AMD on Monday in the trading transformation. I'm actually going to make it after this video about AMD. So it's perfect that I'm putting it out there. So what are we getting, right? We're just accumulating on the lower time frames right now. So I want to see a manipulation. Boom. What do we get? We get a manipulation. How do we know it's manipulation? Because we take out all this liquidity. We took out this liquidity as well. What else do we get? Well, we get a fucking SMT, which is perfect, right? Here's the high. The high did not get taken out on ES. The high got taken out on NASDAQ. So once I seen the SMT, I was like, cool. We made a 1 minute fair value gap right here too. As soon as we invert that, I'm entering. What ended up happening? Invert that 1 minute gap with speed. Zero drawdown. And my take profit gets smacked. Now, listen to this. Bro, I entered with 5 NQ contracts on accident thinking it was MNQ. And I de-risked, A, because it's Friday, we're in the afternoon. And B, because I don't really trade afternoon that much. I normally trade AM, and afternoon moves a little slower. So I de-risked, even though I accidentally went in for 5 NQ contracts. If I held my 5 NQ contracts to this first take profit, it would have been like around $2,200 per account. And I have 13 accounts, so you guys do the math. And then if I would have held them, if I would have had that as my break-even point, and I would have held them to, again, this is all shoulda, woulda, coulda. I don't mind because I won, right? I'm perfectly fine, but I'm just listen to this. If I held it to this fair value gap right here, it would have been like, I think, $6,000 per account. It was either $4,000 or $6,000 per account, and I was like, damn, whatever. What did we end up getting, right? If our stops, if we did held it to this other 15-minute, our break-even point would have been the first 15-minute fair value gap, just in case price did want to reverse off that for whatever reason. So stops would have been break-even. We would have not got stopped out at break-even, and what would have happened? Well, we would have smacked take profit as well. Now, I just want you guys to show this. That was my entry point, right? Look what price ended up doing. I literally caught. Now, I mech'd it towards an unfilled gap, but this is literally a PDI inversion right here, a pre-distribution inversion. We inverted this gap, and then what do we end up doing? We ended up distributing all the way down right here. And here's my top step, right? 202 per account, 5 NQ contracts times 2 point per points, and my take profit was only, what, 22 points. So yeah, about $220 minus the fees. So again, what were my confluences on this trade? 1 hour fair value gap, 15-minute liquidity sweep, okay, 5-minute fair value gap tap, internal SMT, 1 minute inversion. 5 confluences in our favor with price moving good, S tier. It's exactly what we're looking for every single time. Again, price got hit. I ain't mad about it. I made money on the day. I wasn't even going to trade today. So I made money on the day. $200 across all accounts, 13 accounts. I think that's $2,600 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and then price ended up just sitting in the bed. Let's see what price is doing now. It's still shitting the bed. So yeah, I literally caught the first inversion off of this whole leg, which I thought was pretty funny because the way I trade is low RR, high win rate. So I tend to literally just aim for 1-to-1, 1-to-2s all the time and it has about a 70-75% win rate. I don't aim for those 1-to-10s, 1-to-whatever. Now, say I held it for whatever. If I was holding it, my stops would have been at this SMT. And say my take profit was like all the way, let's say this low right here. What is that? That's a 1-to-5. That's not part of my strategy, right? So that's why I didn't continue to hold. And I took profits where I took profits. And I was extremely satisfied with that. So that's why I traded like I did today. That was my thought process throughout the entire day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Enjoy your weekend. We have a beginner's blueprint that came out today. It's where you're supposed to place your stop loss and take profits. If you're a beginner trader, I doubt you guys know where to put those. Because I know when I was a beginner, I would put them in dumbass places and either not get enough take profit where I should have, or I would get stopped out for whatever reason because my stop loss was in the dumbass place. So stop loss in take profit beginner's blueprint is out now. It dropped that about an hour and a half ago. And then on top of that, there will be another beginner's blueprint on Saturday, and then on Sunday I'm making a guide essentially to how to basically go from step 0 when you're starting your day trading journey to get a payout. So with that being said, you guys enjoy your weekend. There will be content getting put out this weekend if you guys want to tune in, but I'm out of here.